Good morning. Welcome to our daily devotion. It is Monday, March 8th. TGIM. Thank God it's Monday. Wonder how many of you can say that, or how many of you only say TGIF. Looking forward to another week of teaching and doing devotions and leading you closer to the Lord. So I thank those of you that stay committed to these videos. Good morning, Grace. Those of you that made that commitment that you're going to spend time with God every day in His Word. God will honor that, trust me. Morning, Marcy. So today we're back in Matthew, going through the book of Matthew. Interesting here, we're going to be talking about discouragement. So let me read what Jesus has to say. When Jesus began to denounce the cities in which most of his miracles have been performed because they did not repent. Woe to you, Chorazin! Woe to you, Bethesda! If the miracles that were performed in you had been performed in Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. But I tell you, it will be more bearable for Tyre and Sidon on the day of judgment than for you. And you, Capernaum, will you be lifted up to the skies? No, you will go down to the depths. If the miracles that have been performed in you had been performed in Sodom, it would remain to this day. But I tell you that it will be more bearable for Sodom on the day of judgment than for you. Do you hear the discouragement in Jesus' voice as this is written here? How discouraged he would get, and he voiced his discouragement. Paul many times was just so discouraged with the people, and he voiced his discouragement with them. So I have to be honest and say I've been discouraged many times also over these past 11 years of leading Collision. There's morning, John. Appreciate you coming yesterday to pray with Jackie. I've over the years, there would be high points, and Collision would really be growing, and then something would happen, and then we would go backwards. Then we would go forward again, and then something would happen, and we go backwards. It's like 3 steps forward and then 2 back. And I would get discouraged. People would attend all excited about the church, and then they would end up leaving. However, I shouldn't have been so surprised, since this also happened to Jesus many times, even with his disciples many times. Imagine, Jesus was performing unbelievable miracles, unbelievable signs and wonders, and yet the people refused to believe, refused to stick around, left. So it's no wonder that he got discouraged. But the question is, did he ever quit? And the answer is no, of course not. He didn't quit. Did Paul ever quit? No, of course not. Did his disciples ever quit? No. Did they get discouraged? Yes, but they didn't quit. Why? Because there was still people that did believe in them. There was still some that did stay and follow. So there was always something to keep them going. Listen to what it says here in Luke 15:7. It says this. Jesus says, I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who do not need to repent. We take it for granted when someone gives their life to the Lord. Wow, heaven rejoices. It goes on in verse 10. In the same way, I tell you, there is rejoicing in the presence of the angels of God over one sinner who repents. Well, we've had the privilege of seeing hundreds come to know the Lord at Collision. So here's what I've learned, okay? Over the years now, I've learned to just look for instead of always looking for the big things all the time, to just look for that one little thing each week. I've had people like Dave Sloan has asked me, God, what keeps you going, Jim? And what keeps me going is just looking for that one little thing that I see. Christina, when you came with your grandchildren too, that was a highlight for me that year. That was a complete highlight, seeing your grandchildren come into Collision. When the two boys and the girl came, it lifted me up. It lifted me up. It's just looking for little things. Let me give you some examples. Years ago, when I first became a Christian, we had a pretty large youth group, and they were growing in their faith, and a lot of them lived in Hawaiian Gardens, and and a lot of them were on probation. And when they would go to see the probation officers were noticing a difference in them. So they started asking them, and they were telling them about the youth group they were going to. And so the probation officers started sending the kids they were working with to our group. And I can remember one night, this tall young guy, there was a high school group, and this tall young guy came to the church, and we were huggers, and some of the girls would, oh, hi, new, and they would go to hug him, and he would just be standing back, kind of like, whoa, what's going on here? And he stood by the door and never did come in. He just stood by the door watching the whole night, and kind of was a stern look on his face. And at one point during the night, he smiled. There was a smile on his face. That just made my whole night. There was like over 100 kids there, but he smiled that one time. Now, I never saw him again, never came back again. But that lifted me up, and it encouraged me. Because things happen that easily can discourage you. But when you look for the little things, you never get discouraged then. There's always that one thing. I shared this with you before when we were doing outreach at when I was a youth pastor at Rosewood Church of Balfour. We were doing outreach using bands. And the one night, the security came to me and said, hey, there's a guy in church there drinking a beer. And I looked there, and here he was drinking a beer in church. And so I walked up to him and said, hey, you can't drink beer. And he just kind of looked at us and said, you're in a church. And he looked around like, oh, well, I didn't know that. And he put his beer down. He came to watch the band. And when I gave my message that night, he never took his eyes off me. He was just listening intently, like the first time he had ever heard this. And again, never saw him again. But a lot of things happened that night that could have discouraged me, but I looked at him to encourage me. I'll give you one more. My wife and I was working with youth at another church, and they had a Christmas party. And my wife and I were going to the pastor's house to the Christmas party, and I think she wanted some gum. So anyway, I stopped at a 7-Eleven. I was somewhere in Cypress or La Palma, and I stopped at a 7-Eleven. And when I got up to the register, the guy looked at me and says, oh, you're Jim Plon, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He says, oh, you probably don't remember me. He said, me and my girlfriend were coming to your group. He said, just want you to know it completely changed our lives. He said, we're not together anymore. He said, but we both stopped using drugs. We both cleaned our life up. And I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even recognize him. He must not have come very many times. And I would never have known that. If I hadn't stopped in that time, I would never have known that. So that just lifted me up, that things are happening that I'm unaware of. So it's the same thing now with doing these devotions online. There could be things going on that I'm not even aware of. For all I know, somebody listened to a video and gave their life to the Lord, and I won't know that till I get to heaven. But just knowing this one case that I just shared with you gives me encouragement to know that there could be and probably is things happening that I'm unaware of. So if we constantly keep looking for the big things, we will miss so many little things in our lives. So the next time you get to attend a church, don't just look for the big things. Look for the little things. It could be as simple, Paul, it could be as simple as you leading worship and looking out and seeing someone singing for the first time that usually just sits there and doesn't sing, and here they are now all of a sudden sing. Maybe seeing someone stand that never stood before. It's just looking for little things. Now, it could be where there was a low attendance that Sunday and there was not as much energy that Sunday, and you could just go back discouraged, kind of like, oh gosh, I don't know about leading worship. It's just, but if you look for that little thing, that one person standing, it encourages you. So don't always look for the big things. Look for the little things, and I promise you, you will never get discouraged. Now, it can be this way anywhere. Some of you that may still be going to work, you can go to work and be discouraged. Or you can go to work and look for that one thing that happens. Maybe where your boss just kind of smiles at you. Maybe where your boss just kind of taps you on the shoulder. Just that one little thing where it just kind of like, hey, this made my day. This made my day. It can be the same thing with you, with your children or your grandchildren. Ah, God, Christina, thank you. Boy, I tell you what, when we get aboard soon, there's a lot of things that I believe God is going to be doing in our future. I so hope that's true, Christina. I hope that I get to see your grandchildren again. They were great kids. They were great kids. I hope that I do get to see them again. I hope that I do get to minister to them again as much as yourself, Christina. That would make my year. Okay. Hey, God bless you all. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your commitment to these daily devotions. Tonight is our special message. I'm going to be talking on loneliness. A subject that I was unaware of, that I'll just whet your appetite. I don't know if you know this. They say that 3 out of 4 Americans struggle with loneliness. 3 out of 4. That's 75% of Americans that struggle with loneliness in different ways. So join me tonight as we talk about that and things that we can do to overcome that. Thank you for joining, Anna. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Sandy. Thank you. Marcy, thank you. Have a great day. I get my second shot today for the vaccine. God bless you all and have a great day. Thank you for watching. Share it if it means something to you. Thank you.